Welcome everybody to the school committee meeting, and I will call it to order. Just a reminder, as always, I know people are watching on YouTube and Facebook. You're more than welcome to put your questions into the chat, and hopefully we can see them all, and we will try to answer them as we progress. At times I'll take it and try to answer them at various times I know when we are having a discussion about a meeting, but you're more than welcome to do that. Next up on our agenda is Natalia. And so I'm going to ask Natalia to come up as our student rep. Welcome, Natalia.
Thank you. For this week's update, for the CPAC's update, tickets for CPAC's virtual snowman paint night will still be available until December 12th. All supplies are provided and are to be picked up by on December 15th from 5 to 7 p.m. at the MKG. The event is December 17th at 6:30 p.m. and tickets are $10. For the MEC put out the survey for people to request a change in learning models and only have 2 moves to make. This is something they were anxious about, as the request could have resulted in some significant adjustments. The students, families, and staff continue to demonstrate flexibility, patience, and compassion as they figure things out on a daily basis. Fortunately for the MEC students, they don't know any better about what school should look like and are managing it well. They continue to work hard, listen to their teachers, and are figuring out how to make and play with their friends while wearing masks and maintaining social distance. Despite some challenges, like not being able to help other students when they accidentally drop their pencil, the students are consistently happy and kind to others. For the MKG students continue to work hard both in person and remotely. The MKG is working with their PTA to provide virtual field trip opportunities for their students. Their school store will be opening soon, and students have begun to earn tickets. This will be occurring in a new contactless format. Thank you to the PTA and Mrs. McHugh for this new opportunity with ticket redemption. For the HBB, prior to Thanksgiving break, they hosted their first ever Get Moving HBB. They had all classes go outside over the course of 2 days to participate in a variety of fun, socially distant, physical challenges. Thank you to the box program and the parent volunteers who came in, provided music, and helped organize a successful event. They also started the Husky Haven back up this week, which is the school store where kids get to turn in their Husky Haven tickets that they will earn for being Brooklyn's best in return for prizes. They are really looking forward to STEM Week, which will take place the week leading up to the holiday break. They have made a number of accommodations this year given the circumstances, but are confident it will be a success. They have Jay Mankita from Playful Engineers coming back again to visit all classes remotely. All visitors this year will also be remote. If anyone has anything to share in the area of science, math, technology, they are still looking for volunteers and can email Mr. Thompson directly at dthompson@middleborough.k12.ma.us. For Nichols Middle School, the school council has begun at NMS, and there was about 25 student participants for their first meeting. They were already busy planning for an array of school spirit days. NMS is waiting to see if winter sports will happen. As of now, it is a go. NMS is hoping to offer boys and girls basketball, as well as boys and girls swimming and diving. The 8th grade students are exploring their options for high school, and our wonderful MHS virtual faculty presentation to our 8th grade students will be presented on December 7th at 7 p.m. There will be an NMS PTA meeting next Wednesday, December 9th at 7 p.m. The next NMS School Council meeting is Tuesday, December 15th. For the update for MHS, report cards for the first term were distributed November 24th online and can be found as a file on Aspen. Student Council was successful in hosting a class versus class competition to see who could get the most donations for the St. Vincent de Paul Food Pantry. There were over 400 donations. Congrats to the class of 2022 for winning the competition. There is a community service opportunity for students to make holiday cards that will then be brought to local nursing homes. 3 cards are worth 1 hour of community service. We will be accepting cards until December 22nd. December 9th at 7 p.m., MHS Student Council is hosting their 3rd virtual meeting. Winter sports are on track to begin December 14th. Sign up on Family ID and look for updates in the MHS Athletic newsletter. As of next week, dismissal for student drivers and their passengers will be changed to 1:40 instead of 1:30. Thank you.
Thank you, Natalia. Does anyone have any questions for Natalia? Thank you, Natalia. You have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We appreciate you helping out. Does any member have anything they wish to bring up? I will just bring up 2 things beforehand. I want to congratulate the girls for winning. I'm sure Ryan will talk about this later, but I want to congratulate the girls soccer team for winning the South Shore League. And I do also want to congratulate Alexis van der Zijde, who will be going to Temple on a scholarship to play soccer. She's one of the best soccer players I've ever seen play. When I helped run Middleborough Youth Soccer amongst both boys and girls, and it was great to see her get that recognition for all her hard work and everything she put in. So I did want to recognize her there. Mr. Oakley, you had yes.
That's a Division I school, correct?
And Temple plays some great teams, and it's not that far a drive. I know, for example, Alexis had been playing a lot in New Jersey at times with her club team. So, I hope that some people from Middleborough get to come down and watch her play. She is a fantastic player and has been a fantastic teammate for Middleborough, and she does a fantastic job. So, Mr. Oakley, I saw your hand up. Go right ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge you, Mr. Chair, for how lucky we are to have you. And for those that might know, Chair Young recently had some losses in his family and was doing everything he could to, take care of his family and take care of business, but was still signing warrants for the schools and giving us updates via text. And I just wanted to publicly acknowledge how awesome you are, and also just reiterate that we're all here for you if we can do anything to help.
Thank you. I have appreciated everything that you guys have all reached out to me about this week, and the superintendent and all of administration. So I really appreciate that. So thank you, Mr. Oakley. Anybody else have anything they want to bring up? Then with that, I know we don't have the co-presidents, but we do have one of the presidents, Kate Lazarovich is here. Kate, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you. Sam couldn't be with us tonight. She had to see a guy about a boat or something. I just don't have much to report on. Things are really going relatively smoothly at the schools. I'm hearing not much from members, which is great news. What I do know at our level is that we have recently gotten a new learning platform called Pioneer Valley's Literacy Footprints. It's a digital reader program, and it's for our guided reading, which we can do remotely now, different selections of books that we can assign to students and then do guided reading lessons with them. So we're just getting into that. I'm sure Dr. Gates will talk about that as well, but we're excited to have that platform available to us. Report cards will be available on December 18th online through Aspen. They are not going to be printed and going home this year, so I just thought I'd mention that in case someone needs to hear it another time. Go on to your credentials of Aspen. You can print it out at home. The box Get Moving program was awesome. And I want to thank the parents who all came for 2 separate days, and a lot of our staff members who filled in to help out with every class getting to go outside and get moving. That was great at the Berkland. Fundraisers at the local schools and are happening now, and we've made some money to bring in some of these great things like STEM Week and like Natalie was talking about. I did want to congratulate the girls soccer team with my very own intern, Maggie DeRojas was the goalie, and want to give her a shout out. She's a very popular member of our class this semester. The kids love having her come in. And I think that's all I have for the MEA report tonight.
Thank you, Kate. Does anyone have any questions for Kate? Oh, Brian, go right ahead.
I just wanted to make a comment about the efforts that the MEA made prior to the Thanksgiving holiday to reach out to over 100 families in our community and provide them with gift cards or to provide Thanksgiving dinners for 100 plus families in the Middleborough community. So they organized that, they ran that, the administrators helped out, and my administrative assistant, Ann Gagnon, helped out with facilitating the mailing. But I do want to appreciate the efforts of Bill Breen, MEA member, and the entire MEA group. So thank you, and thank you, Kate.
Thank you, Brian. And again, I know we talked thanking Bill before, but he should be thanked repeatedly. It was a great fun raiser for local families, and we're really pleased that Bill came up with this idea, approached all of us with it, and that people all joined in to make it happen. Thank you.
Oh, I think you're muted, Rich.
I said, Kate, we're going to make it short and sweet for you this week, so thank you very much.
Thank you. See you in a couple weeks. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
So with this, I will turn it over to the superintendent for the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee present here tonight. I wanted to mention a few things and certainly get into a more involved report this evening with different members of our administrative staff chiming in on their certain areas that are of importance and interest to you this evening. My first comment would be the fact that we did have upwards of 5 community members since our last meeting who have tested positive for the COVID-19. We continue to monitor that situation. We're fortunate to have Paula Magnasco, our coordinator of nursing, who works with our nurses to make sure that we're aware of every COVID-19 positive that comes our way. And we do our contact tracing and make sure that we have as few contacts as possible. And we remove those students for a period of quarantine. That period of quarantine is changing through the CDC, and those dates are evolving. And I'm sure that the Mass DEAC guidance is going to be tuned into that. Certainly, they already have been. I did want to mention that through the Department of Public Health here in Middleborough, Paula Magnasco coordinated a flu shot morning on Saturday, November 21st, where approximately 75 flu shots were given to members of the community in a drive-up format. Walgreen provided 5 pharmacists that day, and we were able to take care of that. I just wanted to let folks know out there that it is required that students receive a flu shot. If parents want to exempt their children, they can certainly do so, and they can follow those guidelines. If they need more information, they can reach out to principals for that. But other than that, all students should be getting a flu shot if they don't have any religious reasons not to. So with that, I would invite Dr. Melanie Gates up to the floor here and the stage to provide a technology update. There are a number of things that she's going to talk about. The first one, perhaps not the first one, I'm not going to jump on I haven't seen your agenda, Melanie, but I know that we're going to talk a little bit about Wally computer, Lenovo computer, and that we're still waiting for 2,000 Chromebooks, which is of major concern to the school district. It's of major concern for a number of reasons at a number of different levels. First one being educational, and the second one being it is approximately $400,000 that the school district has put out with the understanding that we would get CARES COVID reimbursement for that, and Plymouth County is ready, willing, and able, I believe, to reimburse us for that. But December 1st deadline is looming. And that is going to be a major factor in terms of our ability to get reimbursed for the money that we put out or we're putting out for this technology. So with that, I don't mean to steal your thunder, Dr. Gates, but just wanted to give folks a little bit of a background on where we are. And she knows a lot more about it because I know that she's reached out to the folks at Wally and the folks at Lenovo. So without further ado, Dr. Melanie Gates, welcome and thank you.
Thank you, Superintendent Lynch and school committee members. It is quite unfortunate that the technology that we had planned to acquire back in June still has yet to be delivered. I do have a meeting tomorrow with both Wally Computers and the representative from Lenovo. As I told them I'm in need of as many details as possible because we have some major events coming up. Not only the need to provide adequate technology within the community, but also preparing for MCAS and access testing for our English learner students. So getting more technology in district is going to be important. I think MCAS is on the agenda for later in this meeting, but that's going to be kicking off in January at the high school. So we need to get the technology in, and we need to have time to be able to prepare that technology for use within the district, and that'll take some time as well. So hopefully tomorrow's meeting can produce some more factual information for us to act on and to be prepared for. I will provide updates to the superintendent and school committee as needed. So I hope to have hopefully some more factual information to share come tomorrow afternoon. I'm going to just share some slides, if I may, just to guide us through my presentation today. That would be, I was going to start with this device update to highlight the 3 different types of devices that we do have coming in, being the 2000 Lenovo 100E Chromebooks, 275 Lenovo 300E laptops, and 91 Lenovo 14W laptops for teachers. And as the superintendent stated, we're still waiting for these devices to come in. Just moving on from that, I'd like to provide some updates of information or events and work that's been going on in the technology department. We certainly haven't been sitting on our hands waiting for the tech to come in. We've been diligently working on a variety of opportunities. The first, I'd like to give a shout out to Mrs. Katie Goodine, who is our student information systems specialist. And Katie has been working diligently for quite some time on launching our new online student registration system. And we're really excited about this because it will help streamline much of our student registration process and truly have an online application to work through. It is part of our Aspen student information system. So it will also help us with creating accounts for new Aspen users. A real big benefit to this will obviously be the ease of access to members within our community, but it's also going to improve our efficiencies with data management. You can see more information about our student registration process on our website, where it's middleborough.k12.ma.us/registration. Also, through the exemplary work of Katie Goodine and also Mr. Sean Siciliano, we've been able to expand our use of ClassLink. It is an ever-growing collection of our web-based applications using our single sign-on solution, which is ClassLink. This allows students, faculty, and staff to sign in with one username and one password and access all of the various programs in the district. It also provides the ability to use QR codes, cards with a QR code that kids can scan to also log in. So it's to help our younger students. And one of the great things with this is that it integrates in with Aspen through a program called OneRoster, which is going to help synchronize the data coming out of Aspen. So we've been really focused on making Aspen our central data location so that the data is clean in one spot and can be used to import into other programs. So I'd like to publicly thank Katie and Sean for their work on this. They've been working hard on it all summer, and they continue to do so throughout this school year. If you're not familiar with ClassLink, you will see an icon at the top of our webpage. As you can see highlighted here, students, faculty, and staff can access ClassLink through this link, and using their Google credentials, they can log in and access then all the platforms available in the district. This is just a sample from my view. I've got a few more apps than some, but once you sign in, kids then can see their different applications to click on and log into. So that's pretty exciting to just streamline that process for all. Lately, we've had a couple big updates in technology. The first is we upgraded from G Suite for Education to G Suite Enterprise for Education. G Suite for Education was a free platform that we were allowed to use. And, anything that's free certainly has its limitations. So we were able to get a 50% discount to obtain G Suite Enterprise for Education. And we were able to jump at the opportunity. G Suite provides some enhanced security controls and advanced access to advanced analytics, which will be helpful on the technical side. But the big boost for our faculty, staff, and students is increased functionality with Google Meet and Google Classroom. In Meet in particular, we now have access to breakout rooms, question and answer features, polling. We can also live stream, record, and there's other features that are coming out shortly. Within Google Classroom, it allows us to gain access to what is called originality reports, which helps us monitor the authenticity of student work. So we can see about if they were not appropriately citing references included in their work, or if students were happening to submit similar work assignments. As Mrs. Lazarovich said, we did recently launch Pioneer Valley's Literacy Footprints digital reading collection. And I'm really excited about this for multiple reasons. One, anytime we can put more books in the hands of our kids, it's just a great thing to do. So I'm happy to be able to do that. But to do so within this format allows us to continue our literacy model during remote learning. So all the hard work that our faculty and staff have been putting in to adjust their practices with reading and writing workshop, using interactive read alouds, guided reading, and more, we're able to continue the guided reading practice through this particular tool. This is really exciting because with guided reading, it allows us to take students at what we call their instructional reading level and work with them to advance what level of text that they can access. So this is going to help us grow our students' ability to read and comprehend text, which is always exciting. It also is going to help increase their exposure to digital text in preparation for MCAS, which is just a tangential benefit to this. And lastly, I'd like to welcome 2 new members of our Information Technology Department. I see that they're on tonight's agenda to be recognized as new employees. We're excited to welcome 2 new computer technicians with Mr. Jaquan Gainey and Mr. Mark Smith. We were able to hire these 2 new positions. One, as was mentioned recently in a school committee meeting, was an additional position, but we did unfortunately have a resignation from Mrs. Katya Forish, and I would like to wish Kate well in her new endeavors, but also welcome Jaquan and Mark to our team. So that is all that I have for tonight. Happy to answer any questions that anyone may have.
Dr. Gates, I'm sure a lot of people have questions about the technology, but clearly we'll wait until after you have the meeting tomorrow to have that. But I did want to bring up something that you didn't mention that's further on our agenda, and I would like to ask you about. And that is, we have a donation from what I see as a familiar name, which is Mrs. Giovannoni, for a digital microscope. Can you talk about that,
Absolutely.
please?
Mrs. Giovannoni recently reached out to me and offered access to a digital microscope as being donated by her company. A digital microscope is something that we're familiar with at the high school. It's a great tool that allows us to connect to a microscope, and then you can connect it to a TV, to the projectors in the classroom, and do more large-scale demonstrations of how to be able to use a microscope and what you can see. So we have, I think, 1 or 2 of them already at the high school. So our hope is to be able to put this at the middle school, which will be great because in middle school science, they really start to explore cells. So it'd be great to be able to bring more visualization to that in the classroom. So that's an exciting donation, and hopefully with the acceptance tonight, we can get that into the hands of Mr. Redpath at the middle school, because I know he's extremely excited to have that kind of technology available for our kids.
Well, we thank her for that and her company also. Any other questions for Dr. Gates? Mr. Oakley.
Thank you very much, Dr. Gates. And if this question is more a Brian question or a Sarah question, that's fine. But I just wondered, given the potential that we could, and I know we'll know more tomorrow, but given the potential that we might not get the devices in before the Plymouth County deadline, what happens if we pass that deadline? What happens if they come in on January 2nd?
I would defer that to the superintendent or to Mrs. Hickey. I'm going to be thinking positively in that these devices will come in the nick of time, and hopefully my persuasive tactics tomorrow can help influence that.
I thank you, Dr. Gates, and I'm sure that will help. We're going to continue to push this company. We don't want to start the process again, Mr. Oakley, through you, Mr. Chair, and I think we're so far along here that hopefully we're days away from receipt of these. I would tell you financially, we are in a little bit of a better place because this money is encumbered or has been encumbered in last year's budget. It was money that was left over from transportation, which we did not use from March through the end of the year. So, I will not state that outside of this meeting, although it is a public meeting, but the money was encumbered in last year's funds, but we still need to get reimbursed for that because we're counting on that through the operational budget for this year. So it is money that we want to spend on these. We need them. We want them. As Dr. Gates had mentioned, we're counting on them, quite frankly. And she knows from firsthand information this year on how we had to sort of Band-Aid things together and put things together with glue and Band-Aids to get as many units in as many hands as possible. And she knows, and I know, and we all know that there are families out there that do not have computers right now. And it's our hope that we'll get computers in everyone's hands as soon as they do come in. So I think we're too far in not to go back. And I just think that the money's there and hopefully we'll get reimbursed. That we have a hard deadline for December 30th, I believe, was the latest we heard today. From the business managers group. So that's what we're looking at. I did speak with Bob Nunes and Lance Benjamino, who coordinates that for Middleborough, and with the same news, and hopefully we'll get it. And I know that we have some connections with Plymouth County. Thank you, Mr. Chair, and we'll hopefully get some more information there. We're hoping they could encumber the money before they sent it back, because according to Lance Benjamino, they have about $36 million or $40 million of the $90 million that was spent, and does the rest of it go back to the federal government? I would hope that we could somehow find that money for these kids, for these computers, because it's definitely COVID related. There's no doubt about it.
Great. Thank you very much. And I'm also very, very confident in Dr. Gates in this meeting tomorrow. So thank you for going back.
Absolutely. And just while I may, if I could, if there are families that are out there still in need of access to technology, please reach out to us in the tech department. You can do so through your child's teacher, through the school, or directly through myself or Sean Siciliano. You can find our contact information on the website. We have still been responding to all needs that arise. Sometimes the devices that we've given out, have a short shelf life, and we're able to take them back and repair them. And we're just doing all we can to make sure that we take care of our kids and that learning can continue. But let's hope and pray that those devices will be in shortly. And I'm hoping that we have some good news to share with you all after tomorrow afternoon's meeting.
Thank you. And Dr. Gates, what time is that meeting tomorrow?
2 or 2:30 off the top of my head.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I'll be following.
Any other
right
questions
after
for
that,
Dr.
Brian.
Gates?
Thank you. Rich?
Thank you, Dr. Gates. Anybody else have a question for Dr. Gates? Thank you very much, Dr. Gates. We appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great evening.
Thank you. And one of our other focuses in the school district, certainly this fall, was to get our buildings as safe as possible under the circumstances. And one of the commitments we made was to air circulation. And air circulation is obviously very important, as you have heard. I'm sure if you're tuned in at all with regard to school facilities or any facility, even your own home, in terms of circulating the air and how many times it gets circulated. we had agreed with the Teachers Association through part of our memorandum of agreement with them on a minimum standard of air circulation, and which is okay. But we wanted to do more as a district. And so we have recently purchased in excess of 100 air purifiers to help in the air circulation effort. It is something, again, that we did not have to do, but for the benefit of our faculty and our students, and anyone that works in our buildings, administrators and anyone else, we were able to commit to this and also submit this for reimbursement through Plymouth County. So without further ado, I'd like to bring in Mr. James F. Hutchinson Jr., AKA Hutch, into the meeting. He's in his little den there, I see, at the Berkland School, and still in his office. Probably just getting done putting a bubbler in or something. But Jim, welcome to the meeting, and please, if you could provide sort of update from your point of view on exactly where we are.
Yep. Thank you, Superintendent Lynch and school committee. Just a quick couple updates. We did some air quality testing prior to the staff returning on August 26th. And then once again, once the buildings were occupied back on September 21st, and those air quality reports were forwarded to the superintendent, all the principals, and also the teachers union. They came back as we had hoped, so that was good. I've been in a few of the webinars with Desi just to go over the ventilation pieces. They continue to have one constant as far as ventilation, and it's an open window, although we have our univents running at all time when the staff is in the building. And now, as Superintendent Lynch mentioned, we have added air purifiers to every classroom when the kids are in the building. They run just about 12 hours a day. The custodians will have them running when the staff comes in the morning, and then they shut them off at the end of the night. They're a 3-stage filter. The first is a nylon mesh filter that's washable. The second is a pleated media filter, and then the third filter is a HEPA filter. All of the air purifiers have an indicator that lets us know when that HEPA filter needs to be replaced, or the other two as well, but more importantly, that HEPA filter. And with the order of the air purifiers, we also ordered a backup HEPA filter for each unit. So we're prepared to, when those lights come on and tell us it's time to change, we have the filters in-house to do that. And like Superintendent Lynch said, we'll be submitting for reimbursement to Plymouth County for that as well. On the other pieces for filters through the district, classroom univent filters were all changed prior to the students' return. And then they're a little more frequent now with the pandemic. We'll be replacing them all again on the Christmas break. All the rooftop units, they have the MERV 13 filters in them. They also were replaced prior to the student and staff returning, and they're being changed right now because it takes about 3 weeks to do that, and we're kind of dancing around the weather doing that. So that pretty much is a rundown on the filter piece. PPE and the sanitizing, I want to thank Rich Oakley for putting together his donation of face shields for the staff. He had his 3D printer working away there, so that's been great. Thank you very much for that, Rich. All the classrooms, offices, hallways, there's hand sanitizer everywhere, accessible to everyone, as well as sanitizer and disinfectant for every classroom. So we've got that in an overabundant amount. So with Paula Magnasco and myself, we'll make sure that the stock is there for all of them, but we're in great shape as that goes. And the custodial staff is doing an excellent job. We have 15 electrostatic sprays throughout the district, and they're cleaning throughout the day. If there's a mass break, if the weather's inclement and they go to, let's say, the Nichols C cluster, the guys will get radioed down there, and they go down and they take those electrostatic sprayers and they get those spaces clean within a matter of 5-10 minutes, and then we can have another group of kids get in there, which will be important now with the weather changing. We won't be able to go out as often as we do now. So that's important to keep the spaces cleaned and keep the kids safe. So that's been great. And that's pretty much it. It's just a quick rundown for the schools themselves. And we've been very fortunate that we haven't had any cases in the school. or started in the school. Everything's been nice and clean, and it's certainly great to hear the kids just outside my office here running around and enjoying each other's company. So thank you to all the custodians and maintenance guys out there to keep the places safe.
Hopefully they're walking in the halls, Mr. Hutchinson.
Well, I hear some quick feet moving out there. I heard one kid the other day who was devastated that his favorite space, the cafeteria, was now a classroom.
So, Hutch, I want to thank you and your guys because, this really started for all you guys in March when everything happened, and you guys worked straight through and continued to do a great job. I think one of the things that had been helpful for us as a school committee was when we negotiated the opening of schools, it was allowing the teachers to see what you had done and what your plans were. And that really helped in the safety aspects of negotiation. So I want to thank you and your whole crew, Hutch, for everything that you've done.
Yeah, the guys did a great job, Rich. The crews did a great job. They had an opportunity with people not in the building to just take on huge painting projects in the auditoriums and everywhere else. So it was something that we would, even with a long summer, we wouldn't be able to do. So we took full advantage of it. Yep.
One question did come in, Hutch, and I just want to clarify with you. As you said, and I think I know the answer, but is it the intention to keep windows open throughout the school year so that, for example, in the wintertime, parents should really layer their kids when they go to the school?
Yeah, absolutely. So with our univents alone, even in the winter when the dampers are closed more than they would be in the spring or summer, we still have the air exchange per hour, but the window open, and then on top of it, the air purifiers, even we have a 5-speed setting on that air purifier. Even on the second setting, we're still, depending on the square footage of the room, changing that air per hour 2 to 3 times per hour just on the number 2 setting. So, but yes, that's definitely something they continue to say. Dress in layers and put a stocking cap on because we're going to keep the windows not fully open, obviously, but cracked.
Thank you, Hutch. Any questions for Hutch? Hutch, again, I can't thank your crews enough. You guys have worked over and over again, and I think the thing that people need to know too, Hutch, is you personally. Brian and I have this conversation all the time. How many days you're in the weekend, and what you're doing over the weekend. You go well over and beyond, and I can't emphasize enough that one of the best things we ever did was hire you as the facilities director. So thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I would certainly second that, and also say and make note of the fact that we have a construction company at the high school that comes a long way every day. The management comes a long way from the Longmeadow, Chicopee, Springfield area, sometimes Worcester. They're not around the project. They're not a couple miles from the project. Unfortunately, they have Jim Hutchinson, which Jim Hutchinson monitors that project constantly. And when the wind blows, he gets a call, generally, not from the construction company, but sometimes from the neighbors when things are blowing around. And one particular Sunday night, he was out there with his son and his son's girlfriend at between 9 and 10 p.m. chasing 4x8 sheets of whatever around a construction site, trying to nail down things and weigh down things. So in the pouring rain and driven wind, and I just want to appreciate him as a go-to guy. And I know the project certainly has come forward and thanked him at a number of recent meetings for his amount of work that he's done when he really doesn't have to. He's not a project manager on that project. He takes care of things from the school system's perspective. But he doesn't need to be out there at night with his son and his son's girlfriend chasing 4x8. I don't know what the sheets of something around. Weren't they, Jim?
Yeah, it was for the greenhouse, the plexiglass for the greenhouse. Yeah.
And it's just something that's above and beyond again. And we do appreciate everything that Jim does and continues to do. And thank you very much.
Yep, you're very welcome.
If there's nothing else, we'll move on to athletics. And Ryan Sylvia is here. Thank you, Jim.
Thanks. Thank you, Hutch.
We're going to bring Athletic Director Ryan Sylvia onto the stage, if you will. And there he is. So we welcome Ryan, and Ryan's here to talk about sort of a wrap-up of fall sports and a sort of an intro to winter sports. As you know, you as a school committee have agreed to provide athletic opportunities for our kids if we can. I know basically went to a fall without any spreading of any sort type of COVID-19 in any of our teams. And again, thanks to the facilities folks who keep those locker rooms nice and clean, and a lot of outdoor sports, we were able to do that. So welcome, Ryan, and I won't say any more because you can fill the school committee on where we're at with South Shore League activities.
Yep. Thank you, Superintendent Lynch and school committee, for inviting me tonight. I have just a quick update on the fall and then kind of an overview of the preliminary plan for the winter. The fall, I think, was a huge success, and for many reasons, but mostly from the efforts of, like we already said, our facilities team. Sean, we don't have to share that yet, if that's okay. I can't see it from there anyway. Thank you. Our coaches were great this year. I mean, the disinfecting of equipment and high-touched areas is something they had to do on a daily basis. Our kids were great with, masking up when they needed to, even though they're outside, and dealing with the modifications of sport. So overall, a huge success. We had a huge number of participation, more so than we even had in other years. We had 587 total participants in the various activities we had going on. And the way that broke down was we had the high school participation was at 220, middle school participation was at 59, and then we had 176 participants in fall 2 activities. So those football players, cheerleaders, volleyball players that didn't get to actually compete this fall were still participating in practice activities throughout the fall season. And then towards the end of the fall season, we actually allowed some off-season teams to start preparing for the winter and spring seasons for some of those kids that missed. So we had boys and girls basketball, boys and girls swimming, softball, and boys lacrosse, another 132 participants. And a huge number this fall was our strength and conditioning program that had 80. So there's some overlap there, some football kids who are also in strength and conditioning and volleyball. But in general, the idea here is that we were able to provide a ton of opportunities for our kids to participate successfully and keep them safe the entire time while we did it. So I'm proud of that. I'm proud of our coaches and our students and everybody that was involved in that for the fall season. A little bit more on it. We had the way it went out, we had an abbreviated regular season, which was followed by a varsity league tournament and also a junior varsity tournament. And that was kind of to give our students a postseason experience because the state association had canceled all state tournaments for this fall and for the winter as well. And so it was something that was unique this year is that the JV teams actually got to compete in a single elimination tournament, which had never been done. They played their regular season out, and then that was kind of it. If you weren't on the varsity, you didn't get to have a tournament experience. And this year, just to get them to continue playing until the end of the year and get as many participation opportunities as possible, the South Shore League created this single elimination tournament, and our girls JV soccer team actually won the tournament, which was a nice thing for them and a nice feather in the cap. Some celebration stuff from the fall. If you saw the newsletter and some of the posts, the girls soccer team won the league championship for the first time in school history. So that was definitely a huge accomplishment for them. The field hockey team reached the semifinal round in their tournament, lost to East Bridgewater. And then we had a number of individual accomplishments, 2 players of the year, 1 coach of the year, 21 league all-stars. And there's still more to come with that too. I think we're going to see an article coming out in the Boston Globe on the girls soccer team, a number of all scholastic selections and Proctor Enterprise selections and things like that. So a successful fall season in general. The only team that we did not have participate this fall that we typically do were the majorettes. They opted out. That was by choice, and they hopefully are going to be competing or at least participating in fall 2 once football gets started, assuming it gets started, and then hopefully have their competition season later in the spring. But there's still kind of more to come on that. So that's kind of the fall wrap up, and then looking forward to the winter. I guess maybe I should stop and see if anyone had questions about the fall before we move on.
Any questions for Ryan about the fall? Teresa, go right ahead.
No questions, but just a thank you, because obviously as a parent of a senior who we weren't even sure if he was going to get a season. We were certainly grateful that he was able to play, and it really was through the efforts of you and Mary and your team. So I want to thank you very much, and also wish you happy birthday.
Thank you. I had a feeling that was coming.
You're welcome.
Great. So winter sports. The South Shore League athletic directors meet on a regular basis. We meet weekly to kind of, had always been a monthly meeting, and then ever since COVID, we have a weekly meeting. So there's one every Friday. We have one tomorrow, and we're constantly talking about and planning for what winter sports are going to look like. So as of now, practice start date for the entire state is Monday, December 14th, and that's what the South Shore League plans to do, and Middleborough Public Schools plan to do is start on December 14th. Our first competition day, so the 14th is practice. The first competition day when we start games as of now is scheduled for January 8th. Our strength and conditioning program will start shortly after that, January 11th. So anyone who's not in a structured team activity can participate in strength and conditioning in January. And as of right now, we're planning on offering boys and girls basketball at all levels, middle school, freshman, JV, and varsity. Boys and girls swimming and diving is varsity only with a middle school level waiver. So allowing those middle school students to participate on the swimming and diving team if they choose. Ice hockey is varsity with an 8th grade waiver. So 8th graders have the option to try out for the varsity team. And gymnastics is a cooperative team with Carver. We are the guest school in that co-op. Teams that move to other seasons based off the MIA guidelines and the state guidelines. Competitive winter cheer has been moved to the spring season, and wrestling has been moved to the spring season. And there's been some talk about wrestling and competitive cheer actually taking place outdoors, which would be kind of an interesting change, potentially being out on the turf field or outdoors somewhere. Boys and girls indoor track has been moved to that fall 2 season, that February 22nd to April 25th. And majorettes as well, like I already mentioned, is going to be hopefully moved to fall 2 or spring. They have a little bit different setup. They're not governed by the MIA. They have their own independent organization, the New England Majorette Association. Just some other considerations for winter that we're talking about as athletic directors, as a league, and then I know the superintendents are having these discussions as well before we make final decisions. Biggest difference from fall to winter is these activities are taking place indoors, and in some cases in our own school buildings. So for basketball and swimming, those games will actually take place in our schools, where we'll be hosting students from other towns in our school building. So that's one change and something we need to consider, and taking all the proper precautions of cleaning and disinfecting in between teams. You have a JV basketball game followed by a varsity basketball game. Those high touched areas need to be cleaned and disinfected, and I'll be working closely with our facilities director and head custodian to make sure those things are happening, and also our coaches and students, and they're doing their part as well. Hockey, a little bit different, is going to be obviously at an off-site location at Bridgewater Ice Arena. And one good thing that has come from this situation is we were able to change our ice time, our practice ice time, from before school at 5 a.m., which is where it traditionally was, to a 3 o'clock ice time, which is prime time. There's a slight change in the cost because it is a prime time, but if we were not able to do a 5 o'clock ice time, because a 5 a.m. ice time, because there's no access to the showers at the rinks right now. So students are actually going to have to come from school prepared for practice, get on, skate, and get off. So that is one positive change in my mind. It's more ideal practice time for ice hockey. Swim meets are going to be held virtually. So they're actually going to be students swimming the full slate of events on their own as a team, and then that one team will leave the pool, another team will come in and swim their events, and then the times will be matched up to see who won and how they were scored against each other. They can also be done at different pools. So for example, one of the teams in our league has their own pool like we do, so they'll be swimming at the same time as Middleborough. When Middleborough and Randolph face off, they'll just be at different pools. So kind of a unique situation. And there is fall swimming in the state, and that's kind of the format that they used this year, and it seemed to work well. So that's what we're going to attempt to go with this winter. Then just other considerations are all the big ones. Transportation, we're going to be required to have additional transportation because we can only put so many students on a bus. Typically, the basketball teams will ride together. Well, once they hit that 23 mark plus coaches, now we have to have additional buses. And then and from a budget standpoint, that does balance out in a sense that the seasons are abbreviated. So there's significantly less games in the season. So the adding of buses per play date actually kind of equals out in the overall, budget. And then I know some big questions are going to be spectators and live streaming of events. We intend to live stream all of the events that happen in our gym, and hopefully at the pool as well. We still have to work out those details. And obviously, if the event is live streamed, people will be able to view that from home or wherever they are with an internet connection. As far as spectators go, we're still having those discussions on what that's going to look like. Ideally, it will look similar to the fall. Each student will have a parent, two parents or guardians able to attend and watch the home events. There would, as of now, in my opinion, there would not be any traveling to away venues for spectators. But we hope that we'll be able to allow parents to at least see those games live in person in the gym and at the pool and at the rink. But we're still making those decisions. So that's the basic. That's my presentation for the outlook for the winter and wrap up of the fall. And I welcome any questions.
Ryan, could you talk briefly about Nichols Middle School?
Yes, Nichols Middle School, same plan as far as we offer girls and boys basketball are the only two winter teams that we offer and that we still intend to offer. And that start date as of now is going to be on December 14th, the same as the high school. It's a little bit of a unique situation because they're in a different league. So the Nichols Middle School participates in the Massasoit League, whereas the high school is in the South Shore League. And if that league decides not to offer athletic opportunities, then what we have done and what we did in the fall was request to go independent for the season and create our own schedule. And we were able to do that in the fall with about an 8 to 10 game season for our middle school teams. And I've started to build the schedules, the independent schedules for the Massasoit League, for the middle school basketball teams already in anticipation of that league opting out for the winter, because we want to make sure those kids are still able to play basketball. If our high school kids are doing it, then I don't see any reason why we can't offer it for middle school, as long as our facilities allow for that, and meaning our gym space and locker rooms and things like that. The other opportunities that are there for middle school are really only right now swimming and diving and would be wrestling, but not until the spring. And then the 8th graders only are allowed to try out for hockey.
Thanks.
So first of all, thank you, Ryan. I know the extra work you guys have had to put in to try to juggle things and make sure things actually happen. So we really appreciate that. Do people have questions for Ryan? Ryan, do you have an idea of when what's going to happen with spectators at the game will play out by?
I'm hoping we'll have an answer for that by the start of the season, of the practice season, at December 14th. But the games don't start until January 8th. So we do have some time, and I think a lot of it is going to kind of be determined by what things look like at that time. It could be a situation where the state comes in and doesn't allow that. Doesn't allow spectators. But I think if it's something, and I know I've had conversations with our superintendent about this, if it's something that the state is allowing and that we feel we can do safely, then that we're going to try to do that. And That's really all. That's where we're at right now. But hopefully by the start of the season on December 14th.
And Ryan, one other question I have for you: will sort of traditional is the hope that traditional days games are played stay? For example, basketball was normally played every Friday night, that kind of thing.
Yep. So as of now, the schedules are. I didn't get too much into the schedules, but the schedules are done. They're not posted yet, and they are basketball Tuesday, Fridays. Swimming is Thursday, Fridays. Hockey is Wednesday, Saturdays, depending home or away. And obviously for basketball, if the boys are home, the girls are away. We are still determining. We may make the move of having freshman basketball games on different days because of the transition between freshman to JV to varsity, that the amount of people coming in on a single day. But that is the plan for right now, as far as the days go.
Thank you. Other questions for Ryan? Ryan, before you go, the one question I had, because I know you're always at those meetings, I'm just wondering, given everything that we have going on, how MASBA's doing?
MASBA's doing well. They're still obviously very supportive of what we're trying to do. We did do the Gold Card fundraiser in the fall. And we are still finalizing plans for a winter fundraiser. We kind of try to do one major fundraiser each season. The Gold Cards did well, not as well as they had in the past because there was no door-to-door sales and it was a little bit different. But we do still get support, huge support from them. And it's important. The thing I always stress when we do these fundraisers is MASBA is really what helps keep our user fee low. And I think sometimes not everyone realizes, in comparison to some of the other towns, that we have a very reasonable user fee. And it's because of MASBA that they're able to supplement what we do. And those fundraisers are important.
Any other questions for Ryan? Well, thanks again, Ryan. We appreciate all your extra efforts in making sure that kids get an opportunity to play.
Yep. Thank you. You're welcome.
Thanks, Ryan.
Looking forward to
Appreciate
the winter.
As Ryan steps off the stage, I would ask that Sarah Hickey step on and talk about minimum wage for 2021 from the business office. Thank you, Ms. Hickey, and welcome.
Thank you, Superintendent Lynch, and good evening, school committee members. I'm here to talk to you tonight about minimum wage increase in Massachusetts. There's a 75-cent rate increase to minimum wage that begins January 1st of 2021. And as a municipality, we are not required to follow the minimum wage laws. That we could pay people as we see fit. But one of the things that this district has done in the past is to follow the minimum wage increases, and in some positions we try to pay a little bit better than minimum wage. So included in your school committee packets was the sheet for the substitute coverage with adjustments, an increase of 75 cents per hour for all of those positions, and then all of our minimum wage positions would get a 75-cent increase as well. I don't know if you need to vote on this, Chairman Young. Is this something that gets voted on?
We have voted on it each of the last years since it's been added, so I would think that we would have to. As Sarah said, it's not required, but it's always been the prerogative of this committee to increase everything to the minimum wage. I think primarily because it still allows us to get good people for certain positions.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And when people can work other places cheaper, it's not going to be helpful to us. So Chair would entertain a motion to move those positions along with the minimum wage requirements.
So moved.
Do I hear a second? Discussion? Like I said, this is a normal procedure that we've done every year. It is not something that we haven't. With that, the chair will take a vote. Mr. Oakley?
Aye.
Ms. Janess,
Aye.
Ms. Farley,
Aye.
and the chair votes yes to make it unanimous. So thank you, Sarah. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hickey. Moving on my report here, there's a couple of items here, 6 and 7, that are sort of related. The first one is a discussion, if you would like, on snow days for the school year. As you know, it's always been the prerogative of the superintendent in terms of the ability to call a snow day. But snow days are going to be looked different in different districts this year. Some have committed to making those remote days. Those districts that are or have been 100% remote, districts are doing different things. We're in a unique set of circumstances here in Middleborough where we have 70 square miles and we have a lot of power outages which occur. Remote learning is dependent on that. We also have employees who are hourly employees, such as cafeteria workers and bus drivers, who would lose a day's pay if we don't extend the school year as a result of a closing. I also believe a snow day is a snow day, and it's kind of fun to have one once in a while. And for kids and for anyone else, it's a nice break. So it's my intention at this point to continue to have snow days as snow days, if we have 1 or 2 or 3 or none for this year, unless otherwise directed. And as you know, the policy on COVID-related issues, which you approved, policy EBC-S, has a provision in it that says basically the school committee makes the school calendar. With regard to snow days, the superintendent's always had the prerogative, but you want to direct me otherwise, you can certainly direct me otherwise moving forward. We can put that as a discussion for tonight. You can certainly discuss it tonight, or you can certainly move it to the next meeting on the 17th, because the next meeting on the 17th is item number 7, is an MCAS update. And Mr. Brannigan has approached me, and the high school administration has approached me with the need to possibly modify a week in January so that our 11th graders can get all of our testing in at once and throughout a 2-week period. And because of the current cohort schedule, that's nearly impossible to do with the current cohort schedule at the high school. So similar to a final schedule, which we've done in the past, this would mean altering that high school schedule. So I would need school committee approval on that. So that would be on the agenda for the next meeting, if you would, to give me the flexibility to be able to alter that schedule with enough notification, hopefully a month or so, for parents who have those matched cohorts where this may mix them up for a couple of days in January. So while the kids are taking MCAS, it's mandatory. The state continues to have mandated MCAS testing, and until such time as that comes off the board, we'll continue to test. And so we may need that flexibility. So I turn that back to you, Mr. Chair, for any discussion or any recommendations that you might have.
Yeah, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, I think in my mind, the snow day piece is problematic because it opens us up to a lot with our union bargaining. As the superintendent outlined, there are certain people who have to, get paid by the time they work. And I believe by eliminating those pieces, it could be a problem to us union-wise. And so that's something that, part of what we had to do at the beginning of the year was we had to negotiate to open schools and work hard on that. I know it wasn't in my piece or the superintendent's piece that we thought about snow days in any way, shape, or form because we were just trying to get the opening of school done. So I would have some serious reservations about changing the ideas of what a snow day is without first opening it up and having the discussion and with the unions. And that's why I would just prefer to keep it the way it's always been, to be quite frankly and honest with everybody. And I don't know how other members feel, but I just throw it out that way to start.
Yep.
Teresa, go right ahead.
I completely agree. I do think that we may have to revisit if we have, quite a few, but given the last few years, we have not had several snow days. I think that there's no reason to change what's working unless we have to. So I think it makes the most sense right now to allow the superintendent to just be still sort of in charge of that decision-making process. And we revisit if we need to, but for now it stays status quo.
Okay. Meg, I saw you had your hand up.
My suggestion was actually going to be to ask the employees what they wanted and just kind of get a consensus. So I completely agree with you, Rich, that keep it as it is and then go to the employees and see who wants what. And if we need to adjust, then we can do that in the future. But I think for right now, we're going to start coming up to the time for snow days. I think it's like crunch time for that. So I think leaving it as it is probably the best idea. You're
Sorry,
muted.
did you say something to me?
You had your hand raised, Rich. Go right ahead.
Oh, sorry, I couldn't hear. Okay. Through you, Mr. Chair, to Mr. Lynch, I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about the concept of these like snow packets, or I don't know what the exact name is for it. Do we do that here? And if so, is that on the table for this season?
Again, through you, Mr. Chair, to you, Mr. Oakley, and the members of the committee. Those were called blizzard bags. It was a popular incentive a couple of years ago to try to get the Department of Ed to agree to having in some communities that had particularly a high number of snow days, that they would have these sort of learning packets at home, and that would take the place of a learning day. That was piloted and then rejected at the state level. It then now has come up again because of this COVID situation where we are more prepared for remote learning, which we are, and it's more of a reality in a lot of communities. And if you'll notice tonight in the Gazette, there's a full article that was taken from the Enterprise, taken from the Standard Times, New Bedford Standard Times. They interviewed a number of school districts around there. They didn't call us. We're sort of a tweener between the Enterprise and the Standard Times. But there are a number of different districts that are doing a number of different things. I know Dartmouth has said that they're going to go remote on those days. Well, they started off the year remote, so they're very familiar with that concept. We have a different approach to our hybrid learning, so we could do it if it came to it. And I agree with Ms. Farley that if we got to the point where we were looking at high 20s in terms of June, I'd hate to go that way or go that far. Right now we're in the low teens right now, 17, I think. Then if we got heavy duty into the next week, into later, like 4 or 5 days, then we'd probably have to have a discussion about it, about maybe doing the remote day or two to finish the year. So I don't want to go too far into June. I would like to stay in the early 20s if we could. But keep in mind that we also lost 10 school days at the beginning of the year. So the more quality full day education that we can provide, the better. And a snow day, remote day, is not really going to look like, as far as I'm concerned, something that resembles what we're doing now. We could get close to it, and we'd give it a heck of a try. But I do think the structure we have now really works.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments or questions? So this doesn't require anything from us because Brian's just following as he has in the past, and going on from there. So Brian, if you could give us a little greater explanation of the MCAS question, just so we understand.
The MCAS calendar at the high school was approached early this week by Mr. Brannigan about the possibility of looking at the January schedule and possibly going with almost a 5-day, and changing the cohorts from 3 and 2, 2 and 3, to 5 and 5 for 2 weeks during the January month, late January, so that those high school kids could have that continuity. And it looks like probably the Martin Luther King, those 4 days, to get all the testing done at once at the high school level for those juniors that need to take the English and math requirement. And those are important tests, and they're high stakes tests, and they're good for the Abigail Adams, the John and Abigail Adams scholarships, and such as that. So it's important that we do our best, and our district do its best to provide the best testing environment we possibly can. And at the high school level, they really feel like contiguous days are the best way to go about it.
Brian, and I recognize Paul's not here.
Mr. Brannigan had a scheduled meeting tonight, and I was going to try to get him here, and he said he might be able to be here by 7:45 or so, and I don't know as if Sean has recognized him out in the stage at all, and he could certainly come in and add something to this conversation. But this is just the beginning of a conversation. But MCAS is still a go, and we may need the flexibility. So definitely, Mr. Brannigan will be at the next meeting.
Okay.
He'll be able to if he needs to put a memo together of explanation. This is just something right now that he just brought forward this week in a phone conversation and a quick text saying we may need some help with regard to timing and MCAS. Get these kids all in and all done and wrapped up and packaged up because the continuity of the testing, and try to get those students who are remote back in some way, shape, or form or manner, whether it be in the gym or otherwise, to get all these kids tested. So, and the state has not been real clear on what to do about this, because as early as this week, the commissioner has come out and said, well, we may do some testing at home. And that just flies in the face of the MCAS security like you wouldn't believe. If you ever worked in a school, and I see some nodding heads, that the security piece is such that, boy, I had to lock things up 24 hours. Had to have a standing guard on MCAS materials. It just didn't get out. You couldn't, if you made a copy of it, it was an irregularity and you had to report to the state, or something happened. Or if a kid, honest to God, if a kid had a bloody nose, or if a kid threw up or whatever, and we had to destroy the test and we had to account for it, and it had to be, the number is certified. And so I'm not sure where they're going to go with it. But certainly would like to see some changes to accommodate the traditional testing, because if we're not in a very non-traditional setting, which we are now in some instances, it's difficult to do traditional testing.
So Brian, given that we're going to have the conversation at our next meeting with Paul, one of the things I would be very interested in Paul explaining to us is, if we go the 5-5, we're talking end of January. So what happens in the course of testing if we get snow, and where do we make that up? I mean, that's one of the questions I would have, because it could be a huge gap in time between when that starts and when that goes. So that would be a thing for me.
Mr. Chair, it's a good question in front here, so that could be part of the discussion, the initial discussion again with Mr. Brannigan. So it's something that came up this week. The agenda was set Monday, so I threw it in there just to make sure we began the conversation, and just so folks out there were started to think about the fact, what if there's the week in January where I have my high school senior who takes care of my 5th grader? Are there something that we need to do, or family might need to do? There's not a lot of numbers like that, but there are enough where it's certainly an area of concern. So
thank you.
Okay.
So that makes sense.
All right. I wanted to finally hear, the chair and I agreed to put this on here, the Middleborough High School project building update, and a wall of distinction. And I just, Mr. Young wanted me to put on this to talk a little bit about what we have currently in the high school. We have approximately 9 dedicated spaces that are dedicated to folks that have distinguished themselves throughout their careers, and have places in the high school that have been named after them. As you know, as a school committee, we voted not to do that in the current high school. We voted to move forward into the current high school with the Wayne M. Karen Auditorium, the Congressional Medal of Honor recipient who graduated Middleborough High School. And we wanted to continue that tradition. But other than that, we wanted to not rename all of the spaces, whether it be the band room or the chorus room or the library or wherever, because in the high school, there were, like I said, there were 9 places in the high school that were named after people that were very distinguished and had very distinguished careers. John Sullivan in the language lab, was the original Russian teacher from 1958 through 1980 and change. People that really, Dick Brooks in the band room, the Middleborough Musical Marching 100. Dick Nelson, who started the tradition of musicals in our school, and we continue that to this day. Live Broadway shows and these big musicals that are done. So all these people that have done so much. There'll be a wall that will be dedicated in the new high school that will feature pictures and summaries of each of their careers and why they each had a place at the whole high school that was dedicated to them. And it's called the Wall of Distinction because these people, like I said, distinguished themselves to the point with their 35, 34, 35, 36-year careers. Harvey Brooks Career Counseling Center, Harvey Brooks did a tremendous amount for the high school. Started school council really way back when with a tremendous building that school culture that Brand has now carried well beyond that. But the Career Counseling Center was named after Harvey. So we wanted to let you know that in the current high school, there is a wall of distinction, and it will feature and honor all of those individual faculty members who had great careers in Middleborough and had a real positive impact on the former Memorial High School and the current Middleborough High School in their careers. And there'll be a big wall for that called the Wall of Distinction. The piece that moves forward from this with regard to Rich Young and discussions that we've had is something that's been established in Marshfield that's not really the Hall of Fame, and it's not really the Wall of Distinction, but is some type of an honoring system where we do find people in the current high school who have maybe not been honored or who might retire that we might want to do something with and honor somehow through a system. And Rich, I don't know, you can go into, you brought the idea forward, and I think it's a good one.
Yeah, so what we'd like to look at, and with your permission, my plan was that myself, Brian, and Paul Brennigan would sit down and formulate this. As Brian said, in most school systems, you have a Hall of Fame and pieces like that. And the Hall of Fame in our system really touches upon athletics and people who've made contributions to athletics. What we're looking for is people who've made a contribution to sort of the entire school system. We've really talked in the past about having, instead of naming things for people, having people really work on scholarships and create scholarships in those people's honor, because we've all believed that was a lasting tribute to those people. But there still should be a place, much like the Hall of Fame, in which we are recognizing people from the school system, both inside and outside, who have been contributors and made Middleborough schools a much better place. Marshfield does that, and in conversations with the people from Marshfield, it has helped sort of stop people from coming and asking for naming things. But it's much like what we do for our Athletic Hall of Fame, which is it's a night, it's a banquet, it honors the people who are there. It's long service. So with I had talked to Sean, and we do have the space to do that in the current new building coming up. And what I'd like to do is just have the opportunity to sit down with Brian and Paul and put together an outline for you all to see, and to come back in a couple of meetings with a proposal that may move forward in the years to come. And so I just wanted to throw that out because it seemed like just a general offshoot of what we were doing thus far.
I think that the point that you made, I think, was the fact that this is not just Middleborough High School. This would be the Middleborough Public Schools.
Absolutely.
This would be that 38-year-old, 38-year veteran teacher who leaves, and everybody goes, "Oh my gosh, she was awesome. She's unbelievable." There's really no place to sort of sometimes honor those folks. So it might be an annual, it might be a once every 2 years, once every 3 years, or whatever it might be. And we'd have to get some more information from Marshfield. And fortunate to know Jeff Granatino, who's the superintendent there, who was a principal I worked with in Bridgewater Raynham. So I can certainly sort of reach out to him. It's something they started a few years back, and it has continued. And there's a space for it in the new high school. And I think we do definitely have the kiosk that we have in the athletic department is for all kinds of things and has lots of memory. That may be a place that maybe place elsewhere within the school to do this. But it's something that, Rich had thought about, and we both read about it in the Enterprise and thought it to be something that was a good foundational idea to begin the conversation. And we're just throwing it out there, I guess, tonight for anyone else to have any comments on. Excuse me. If there's nothing else. Oh, Rich.
Yeah, just wanted to throw my support behind that. It sounds like a great idea, and I'm sure that whatever proposal you guys come back with will be good too. And I appreciate you guys coming up with it. It sounds like
Thank
a great
you, Mr.
idea.
Oakley. Anybody else have any comments or questions? Then we'll move forward with that. And so, Brian, I'll let you finish your superintendent's report.
That concludes my report, Mr. Chair.
Excellent. Next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Chair will entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So
a
moved.
second.
Second.
Certainly.
And could I ask
Just
a
so everyone
question on
knows
it,
for
too?
discussion, our consent agenda consists of warrants, which are the bills that I sign, and minutes. But Rich, go ahead. You had a question about the consent agenda.
Sure. And this is really just my attempt to get more educated on what we do around here. But I just scrolled through quickly the warrants, and I was just curious if I could learn a little bit more about the South Coast Education Collab and what that is and how it works for us and all that.
If Sarah is still here, I will turn that piece over to Sarah. And Sarah is, of course, still here. So Sarah, welcome, and I'll let you talk on that.
South Coast Educational Collaborative does a number of things for us. We have, it is an out-of-district placement for some, at least one of our students, but they also do some, we have testing that gets done outside of our district. And I believe they do, for example, sometimes deaf and hard of hearing testing or vision testing. Those are types of things that might get done outside of the district, and South Coast Educational Collaborative might be one of the vendors that does that for us.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Carolyn Lyons, who's not here tonight, definitely knows the exact right answer. That's just a ballpark answer.
And Mr. Oakley, we are not technically a member of the South Coast Educational Collaborative. There are a number of districts around us that are, and they come as far as Freetown and Lakeville, but mostly are around Berkeley and Somerset and Seekonk in that area. Much like we have Reed's Collaborative is our local collaborative. I'm on the board of directors there. I'm not at South Coast. I do know Dr. David Heimbecker, who's the executive director of the Reed's of the South Shore Educational Collaborative. I know superintendents who are involved in it. So, they're definitely good quality people. We do send our a number of out-of-district placements there. It is, they also reach out to the Berkeley Taunton area, and we're also, when the Reed's Collaborative vacates School Street, when they finish their building, which is being renovated up by the Rotary, then we're going to have an empty School Street, and we're going to have empty classrooms, which might be attractive to certain outsourced educational collaboratives from elsewhere. So, we want to maintain friendly relations with folks that are from other collaboratives.
And
great.
So,
two
Sarah.
Two additional things, Mr. Oakley. I did just, I don't know if you heard my phone dinging. I just got text messages from Carolyn Lyons saying right on the money. We do have 2 out-of-district placement students there, and they are a vendor for us. The second thing I'd like to say is, every moment when I'm off screen during this school committee meeting tonight, I am signing warrants. I'll hold up piece. This is just a piece of one. I sign every paper in here. Superintendent Lynch signs them as well. So I sign them twice though. So you're welcome at any point if you want to learn more about the warrant process to come and take a look, and we can talk about this. It's exciting stuff.
No, that's great. Thank you very much. I appreciate the opportunity to learn a little bit more about that stuff. So thank you.
The other thing, Rich, too, that I should point out, and although this is not a normal year, normally when we have the school committee's conference down the Cape, the superintendent and I meet with the director of the South Shore Collaborative, because they usually like to reach out to people who they do work with and sit down with us at some point and have a conversation about what's going on and what services they can offer. And they've always bent over backwards to meet with us and have a conversation.
And I would probably close it by saying, the signing of warrants is basically a check and balance system. It's an opportunity for a member of the school committee to go through and question anything that money is being spent on. Sarah and I have approval authority at the local level to approve purchase orders and such. But the check and balance system here is that ultimately the school committee has to approve the warrant, and that needs to be done before people are paid and organizations are paid. So it is something that every once in a while Rich has a question. Every once in a while Brian Giovanoni, when we check the warrants, had questions. So and that's important that be there because it's like having 2 signatories on checks for student activity accounts. It's important that there be accountability, and that's a piece of that. So thank you.
Excellent.
I would add, Rich, too, just a couple of things. One is, it is not standard practice to see the superintendent sign the warrants or review the warrants. Until Brian took over, I haven't seen, none of our previous superintendents, nor have superintendents I work with, done that because they usually just left that to the business manager. So Brian goes over and above to do that. And as Brian said, when I sign the warrants, there are sometimes warrants don't get filled because I have a question and I need an answer before I'm going to sign it. And it's not usually around the warrants for normal purchases, because if you look at the warrants, it'll list what's going on. The only thing that's redacted that I don't see is I don't see children's names. I don't see, those type of things like that. It's just, it outlines what they're, what services they're providing and things like that. Where I think the questions come up, I usually have questions. I might have questions about the athletics, or I might have questions about school account that's being spent on something and why it's being spent in that way. And to be honest with you, I usually get an answer before I leave the building. So that's always been a good part.
Great. Thank you very much. And I appreciate all the oversight that you guys already do. And I hope, just asking this question just out of curiosity, not out of any suspicion. So
No. So that's perfectly fine. And it's absolutely. And the other thing too is every one of those line items and warrants are audited every year. We have an auditor come in and look at it. And I would also add to Brian's point of view, not only is it audited by the three of us internally, but it goes to the town side, and the town can ask the same questions I ask, or Brian asks, or Sarah asks.
And it also gets reviewed at the state level. Each and every year, Sarah has to prepare, the business manager, finance director has to prepare an end of the year report, which has to be submitted to the state, and it has to fit into a formula and be exactly right when it goes in. So line item by line item by line item ad nauseum. But it is a system, like I said, of checks and balances to make sure that we're doing the right thing and that money is being spent in the best interest of students in accordance with the law. And that's what it comes down to. So, but your questions are well based and good ones. They need to be asked sometimes.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Then the motion on the table is to approve the consent agenda. Mr. Oakley.
Aye.
Ms. Janess.
Aye.
Ms. Farley.
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Any other things before we adjourn? I do want to again mention thank you to Mrs. Giovannoni and to Crytek for their donation of the digital microscope, and also the amongst our donations is from the New England Police Benevolent Association. They donated to class of 2021 and 2022. So we do want to thank them. Anything else before we adjourn, everybody? With that, the chair will entertain a motion to adjourn, our next meeting being December 17th.
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Mr. Oakley?
Aye.
Ms. Janess?
Aye.
Ms. Farley?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. And thank you, everybody. And we'll look forward to seeing you on the 17th. Have a nice weekend.
Thank you.